All right, welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter space. Today is November 14th, 2022, and this is episode 74 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to the entire digital asset community, and to help scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware to provide infrastructural support to all of the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. We host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host a focus topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. If I could just ask if everyone could give us a follow on Twitter at ledgerscale, turn notifications on so you know when we're going live, and as well as at the bottom right, if everyone could like and retweet the space so that hopefully other people can find the information we speak about valuable in here in the future. And I don't think I'm gonna have Karma here today. I know he's traveling. He was just at the Interledger um, conference in Louisiana, so I think he's on a plane right now. But if anybody has any specific topics, questions, anything they're wondering, please feel free to come up or off topic today.
Hey, good evening, good evening.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good evening. We're GMGM. What's
GMGM?
up, Vet?
Hey, Wolf.
Yo, yo. How are you? So, how are you guys today? Have you been looking into the Ledger things? Haven't?
Yeah, Karma was on the event. I think he right now is on his way home.
Yeah, he's either on a flight or in a car driving back to his house right now. Um, though I personally myself, I watched because it was segmented online. All of the speakers had were filmed live on YouTube, and I personally I was impressed. I I did not realize there were so many things going on right now with Interledger, and I mean entire databases that were being built specifically for Interledger to query data from. So there's definitely a lot of little things from the conference that I picked up that I think are immense. Did you watch any of the speakers, Bep?
No, unfortunately not. Haven't been following that too much, unfortunately. Just was being updated with pictures and all this. Like I saw pictures people took at the event, and yeah, some snippets here and there, but not a meaningful full um, presentation yet. I have to do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool things. I haven't seen the whole episode 2 yet, though. But have you been checking into the? Did you see the Pure OS that with the PCs and phones and things like that? With the App Store, that looks nice.
What's going on?
Welcome up, Cake and Fridge. And I'm sorry, Wolf. If you could just repeat what you said, I didn't catch the end of it.
No, I just said it was a lot of cool things. Did you see the Pure OS thing with the phones and PCs and the App Store?
I might have missed that. Interesting. Do you know what time it was?
Yeah, 12, couple of hours into the first episode, I think.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch. And I told myself to do the same thing already. I want to go back and watch it maybe 2 times, honestly, because there's a lot of information, and it was over a long span of time that it was live, right? So I kind of was sitting around. I was off, and I just had it on playing, so I tried to catch most of it. But if anybody wants to change the subject of, or have anything they want to talk about, please feel free to. How are you doing today, Shellfish?
I'm doing good. I actually got a few books on Linux and hacking, and can't wait to dive into them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how your coding education was coming along.
You obviously don't have kids because it's 5-minute increments. I'm already being beckoned.
Yeah, but they're worth it.
Oh, of course, but this way, my education, I'll be about 105 by the time I'm done reading everything.
No, the good thing is they grow up, right, and they start to take care of themselves a little bit more when they grow up. So eventually, they don't even want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, they go through their phase. I remember my oldest daughter, she got preteen and forgot all about me, but now that she just graduated high school, and now she wants her daddy again, so I'm cool with that.
It is so that typical. That's our culture. I mean, that's part of like a lot of what I would say the typical of how our society kind of operates in America.
Right.
I would love to say I agree or disagree, but I missed that whole thing because I was tending to them.
You're good. Don't worry about it. It is an amazing thing, though. I think I would say it's probably the most amazing thing about life or being alive.
So I was just made a comment about how my daughter forgot about me when she got preteen, and now that she's graduated high school, she's found me again.
Gotcha. Yes. My oldest one is 9 and she's already boy crazy. And my 6-year-old has been boy crazy since she was 2 when she found the neighbor's boy. And at Christmas time, kissed him on the face and said it was her boyfriend. And they've been together, boyfriend, girlfriend, and now she's 6 going on 7. I already have a different boyfriend. Yeah, well, many boyfriends, apparently. No, she's the one I'm going to have to worry about.
Well, bless you. And
But technically, it's all the guys that you're going to have to worry about because she's a girl.
Yeah, she's got the big old blue eyes too, and she's got freckles, and yeah, she knows how to like bat her eyes already. It's crazy.
I don't have any kids, but I'm lucky to have a dog that is smart enough to be almost like a kid. So,
What kind of dog do you have, Wolf?
it's a Alaskan Malamute. These wolves.
Oh,
Do you know what this? Yeah, they are so smart.
I had a friend that had one of those down in the Keys, and she would sit on its back and take its ears, and she looked like she was driving a motorcycle, and the dog would actually like hum like it was a motorcycle. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah, it's laying on his back in the sofa all day long, just stretching out, copying me when I'm laying at my back on my phone. It's like the dog is watching me and laying on its back and watching me. It's funny.
My dog is Labradoodle, so I'm actually throwing her in the pool right now to get her some exercise.
So you have a dog also? What was it? Labrador? You said?
Yeah, I got a Labradoodle. She's
Can
now,
you
she's
do
now
the
swimming.
screen? Just go on the
Yes,
screen.
I'll do the screen.
So what about Swell then? Aren't you going there? Death or bet or?
Well, no, it's not. It's an invite only kind of thing for Swell. You can try and apply to watch it, but I've gotten denied so far every single year, unfortunately. Though we'll probably hear nothing from it, like usual. Maybe we'll get like a couple snippets or segments. But yeah, I don't think anything crazy. That's why I'm not really talking about it. I know it's this week though.
I have a question. Like, what's the rumors about? Some people say it's the rumors are true about settlement or something. Where any news? I probably totally missed, but
What was it about?
Um, people say there are rumors about the settlement being now kind of final or something. Like more
So
precise on the date. Do you know anything?
so Fox News today, right? I can't. Sometimes I look at things and I'm just like I don't understand. My brain can't comprehend it because Natalie Brunwell, right, the influencer, I'm not gonna say right, but she's very Bitcoin centric kind of mentality. She was on Fox News, and I guess they asked her a question about the lawsuit, like her opinion, and they set her up to where they put the title underneath her, lawsuit like possibly ending tomorrow, which is not what she said at all, right? There was a complete setup to make her. It honestly makes her look really bad if you don't have the audio on, I would say, or you just see a picture of it, but. They asked her a question of what her own, I guess, her own personal opinion was, and uh, I, I guess they had suggested that the case could end tomorrow, but yeah, it's complete nonsense.
I
That's
think
why
a lot of that was
XRP is pumping already.
She made that statement like it was hers, like it was facts. She made that statement like it was a fact, not her opinion.
I think a little bit of that as well. Morning, guys. Was actually got to do with tying that into the whole, FTX situation as well. So, yeah, a little bit of FUD on it. And realistically, I mean, why would they know about the settlement coming through tomorrow before anyone else? It doesn't make any sense.
They
Yeah,
said that XRP production called them and told them that. That's what they said. The XRP production called them and told them that.
Stop. Wait, are you kidding?
That's what they said.
Oh my gosh, I was in a space with XRPP earlier. If that's the case, I just round of applause on him.
Yep.
Nah, he even answered that in the questions there from Mr. Intuitive as well. So he didn't call them. I actually put a little tweet underneath his about stoking the fire and being a naughty boy. So
He called them.
They get on that account because they know it's a parody account.
Created his own shit.
So X-rated. You said you felt like more like she was saying it like it was her own, like
Yes.
like it was
The
fact.
the way she answered the question, she answered as a fact.
Oh,
Not
yeah, that's the Bitcoin maximalist side. I swear, man. Everything it's a mentality. You can just kind of divide people because of the singular mentality. Like it goes, we are what we preach, right? We are what we consume, and so I feel like she just does that.
But that's not her first time, though.
Yeah, that's not her first time, exactly.
And she almost had me convinced for a minute. I was like, oh man, I need to bag up some more.
Oh gosh, oh man, yeah, no, no, it wouldn't even make any sense to me.
Only thing I know when I read it, the hairs on my arm stood up. I was like, ooh.
That's a real shame. But I mean, to put her there in that position, it feels like a little bit more of like a setup than anything, right? Like, why?
But she offered that. She offered that unsolicited. They didn't set up. She offered that.
Oh, this is actually more interesting. Where did you get this? Are you able to post the information up top, if you could?
I saw the video. After she made the statement, then they pinned it up under it. And they probably couldn't have, I don't know who even cleared that because it was a live thing. I don't know who did it get edited or anything.
It was funny too because the way that it was sort of stated, the reporter made the statement that that was going to actually happen tomorrow. And then, yeah, as you said, like, then she asked the question what her thoughts were on it and things like that. Then they pinned it up underneath her, like she actually had to answer the question.
Right.
But I mean, the funny thing that I think of is it's like, I mean, how does, Fox get this news when the rest of us in the Twitter spaces that pretty much know everything that's going on with XRP at the moment don't have any idea. And to be asking a Bitcoin maximalist as well, I mean, that sort of weaponizes the news on their end as well to a point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, right, Eleanor Terriot and I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now for some reason. But they work at Fox, right? Isn't that the?
Yes, they work for, both of them works for Fox News.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charles Gasparino.
Charles Gasparino, thank you.
Eleanor did chimed in and told her it wasn't true though.
If the FTX stuff and the ties to the Democrats even holds up, I mean, there'd have to be some pretty amazing stuff that came in the news to like cover all this stuff up.
I've thought about that a lot. I was just watching the news this morning that Zelensky's pretty much called the end of the war or coming to the close of the war. And on the very same day that Zelensky's, closing off that chapter in their history, or going to be closing off their chapter, Biden's over in China talking to Xi Jinping, basically saying don't cross that red line now as well. So the narrative has definitely changed. And I mean, if you look at Europe, Europe's pretty much ready to go. Like they've actually put a pretty hard stance on what they see going forward when it comes to US diplomacy and especially with the cash side of things as well, being the stable coin. They can't take much more of this inflation and the way things are going. So they're looking to be able to make a change. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was actually a political side of things from from overseas against the US to be able to sort of say we need to be able to make some changes. And if the WF is as well connected as what we believe they are, or I believe they are with Ripple and XRP to be able to actually change the way they do banking and pulling away from the US, it might be a real thing. But just tomorrow I don't think it's going to be a jump off period, if you know what I mean.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Oh, nothing surprised me either anymore, but I expect some real catastrophic events to take place soon, so I don't. Yes, things have to go that way.
Well, I'm personally under the same speculation, but it's not right. It's because of the way that the inherent facts kind of lay themselves out in history itself, right? Unfortunately, history doesn't exactly repeat, but it sure does rhyme with the that precedent for our species. ideals, and so this could be good, right? If what you said was true, that the war in Russia was coming to an end, and maybe there could be some sort of economic changes the way that the international system works without there being a world war. I think that would be a very
Well, the way that I'm envisaging this sort of happening at the moment, this is only my thoughts on it. The the flow of money at the moment is sort of everything's way down. There's not too much trust in the crypto scene at the moment. The stock exchange and things like that, they've wiped off trillions of dollars as well. So there's not so much money out there being thrown around. Um, the US is sort of in a sticky predicament at the moment with the petrodollar, or whatever you want to be able to call it, and that the inflation still being a big issue. The change from moving away from Ukraine is now starting to be able to focus more on China, and the whole idea of bringing in military if they do try to be able to cross that red line into Taiwan. Um, it really does change that narrative out, and it's very funny that this is all happening within days of the whole FTX debacle and sort of changing direction on that, and on the outside of that as well, with Europe almost getting to the point where they're like, well, this isn't working. We've hedged our money and put that into US dollars, but now the US dollar's looking like it's almost on a tipping point when we've got this new technology out there that, we realistically, they do not need the US dollar anymore. The only difference is that everyone needs to be able to trade with the US. So you can't have something that's classified as a security in the US that's classified as a currency everywhere else around the world. So how they level that playing field against the US dollar. Obviously, the US doesn't want to be able to lose out on that on a monetary side of things, and also a power side of things as well. So the implementation and pressure that would be against the US to be able to get things right at the moment would be immense. The other side of things, I think, too, if with the Senate and the House, if they lose one of those sides, obviously they're not going to be losing the Senate at the moment because it looks like they're 50-50 and Harris has made her decision. If they still lose the House, then the open information that can be spread through or asked for through those channels could really bring like Biden's administration to an absolute halt. There'd be too much information being thrown around, too many questions being asked. So um, all this has massive implications for the rest of the world as well. So it's interesting to be able to see what they can do, how how the House is going to be able to sort itself out, and especially when it comes to the crypto scene as well. I mean, you won't see many people throwing money into it right now. Because of the whole debacle with FTX and connections and all this kind of stuff. They're also still talking about bank runs at the moment as well. So that's another issue as well.
Well, I'd say my eyes are on Tether. Other than the exchanges, right? I think they're your BlockFi's and your Crypto.coms. There's a hefty price to unfortunately pay in it, and they pay it with other people's money when you know you go on this risky limb, like how all these exchanges are with the way that they have used the liquidity that's been provided to them. I don't think there's not many people or entities in the space that are positioned themselves like Coinbase, where they have like $6 billion of cash, right, and no stable coin and no leverage, right, no options, no nothing like that on their platform. So um, I think, unfortunately, Tether and maybe some other things that might pose a systemic risk to the United States financial markets, might the U.S. Treasury might have to intervene before anything.
Well, that's going to come down to government policies as well. And I mean, they've already mentioned that they're looking at doing emergency regulations when it comes to crypto as well. So,
Yeah, but nothing is emergency with Congress. I mean, this is they take forever.
Well, I think Yellen's over in China at the moment, still trying to be able to work out how to be able to eat with chopsticks. So I don't really see her getting much done over the next few months. I know that she had a big binder in front of her, but I think it was upside down and back to front, and she's still trying to read it.
No. So Janet Yellen is the chairwoman of the U.S. Treasury, but it's not on her. She would call on FSOC, Financial Stability Oversight Council, right, which has authorities because of the Dodd-Frank Act to activate the DoD, which is the Department of Defense, which is the entire United States military. I mean, if they deem it a systemic risk to United financial markets and the economy, they have the ability and the power to do whatever is in means necessary. And so, right, poses this risk.
Didn't Biden supposed to have that his back in September? Didn't each department supposed to bring they report to the thing and he's supposed to report it on it or something? Aren't we behind in that also from each department?
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah, and they did. They all handed in paperwork. Some of them with extensive paperwork, like the U.S. Treasury, right? They had FSOC wrote a specific paper, right? The Financial Stability Oversight Council. So yeah, you can go and it's probably all Googleable. You could probably all find the information on Google.
Googleable. I like that.
Yeah, I liked it too, though. Actually,
who's all on FSOC?
Take it. Watch that. What'd you say, X?
I say, who's all on the FSOC committee besides Gary?
He's not on FSOC. He is part of the SEC, which is also a branch of the U.S. Treasury, but a separate branch. They are the branch of Securities and Exchange Commission, so exchanges and securities, which obviously, right, all the exchanges in the space. There's no law purview because they're not trading securities technically, unless they can. And this is where we're having this problem with the SEC right now. They want everything to be a security because they can't regulate the exchanges unless they're all securities because they're the Securities and Exchange Commission. But if it's securities, then they can regulate it. So it's like a power move in their point. That's why this whole debacle is going on, right, with them. But we just don't have clear rules. And the U.S. Treasury can't make clear rules, right? They can't make laws and things that would people would have to could depend on as a clear guidance, but they can make decisions if it's poses a financial risk and whatever they deem necessary to be done at that moment. So
what the SEC by them dropping this lawsuit, is it really forcing their hands for regulations or laws to be printed? Because they're going through the first it was the executive with the enforcement, now they're going through the judicial, and then finally they'll finish it up with the legislation. Then it'll be the first fully vetted crypto.
In that sense, yeah, that could be a possibility with the case. The way that it ends, it would be first. All right. So in the case of if there's not clear guidelines or clear roads of the road, like there's no clear law set, but they lose the case, then it would precedent, in my opinion, to where we pretty much XRP is like the only one with actually 100 clarity because it was proven in court that it wasn't a security by the SEC.
And then they can use that as the guidelines for the legislation, right?
I don't think regulators really like the SEC personally. At least most of them. So I don't know if anything they do is they're going to set guidelines off. There are a couple bills out that were okay in my opinion, and there are a couple ones out that I really didn't like at all. So is the problem where everybody has a we would call like a political posture, right? And so they only do things dependent on the certain donors that they're getting. And so you have maybe people who are much more Bitcoin and Ethereum centric because they just have a larger value proposition because they've been around for longer. So, and you have a lot of unfortunate metrics that fall into that. Go ahead, Cheesecake.
correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Ripple with Accenture or maybe another company write a toolkit for regulations that they handed over to all the regulators? I really wouldn't be surprised if all that stuff was already written out,
Yep.
and they just are waiting on the opportunity to throw it out there and sign off on it.
But yeah, Ripple. If you look back in historical wise, Ripple is next to DPG, which is the digital currency group, one of the earliest lobbying efforts for blockchain or fintech, right? That you could say existed. But yeah, they for some reason they've been doing it for a long time, but you never really hear regulators really um, saying anything that's in favor of them so far. So I don't know if it really
Well,
does.
they do drop nuggets every once in a while, and they have like I can't remember if it was it was either Christina Lagarde or Georgieva that said that they were going to lean on the private sector to take care of that stuff. They
Yeah,
just slipped it
but
in. It
they're
was a while ago.
yeah, but they're not part of our government. Christine Lagarde is part of the IMF, and um,
No,
uh,
but Ripple, and the Stellar has been on the. I think it was the IMF's board for a while, weren't they?
Uh, no, they weren't on the IMF's board, but they did have many meetings with the IMF. There's 100% a picture of them in the IMF meeting. I forgot what the conference was, but it was like the future of economics or the future of money. I forgot what the conference's name was now, but yeah, yeah. There's no question that there is some sort of association. Distributed ledger technology has been talked about. Ripple is part of the ISO 20022 standards body and committee, which is what the institution banks, right? Standard of messaging will be. They're on the Digital Pound Foundation. Yes, they were part of the 2015 Faster Task Force, right? That was put out by the Federal Reserve, and they were the only fintech company on that. So, like, yeah, I mean, like, right, they've been around, but as of right now, they're just getting sued by the SEC. So it's like,
Well, have you heard anything?
AJ, just
Okay,
to
a
be able to
couple
jump
months
in
ago,
for a
they were
second.
talking about the G7 signed off on the global framework and passed it on to the G20. They said they were going to have that signed off in October, but I haven't heard anything about that because I figured once that was done, that a lot of the regulations that were going to be like just for this region for the United States would basically they would follow the global framework and then just nitpick what's going to be just in house to like adjust.
sorry, could you say that again?
So they were working on a global framework to so they could have continuity around the world with the regulations on cross-border payments and everything. And the G7 signed off on that and handed it over to the G20. They said they were going to have that signed off in October, but I haven't heard anything about that because I figured that could be what they're waiting on because they can like the only difference is going to be what it pertains only to like the United States, but as a whole, as an umbrella, it was all going to be unified with the rest of the world. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I thought that was last year actually. Wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken? Is it? Are you talking about this year or last year?
Yeah, that was this year.
Not that there's a certain bill that I saw, but I know if you're talking about the most important thing was really just the tax structure. All of the countries, the only thing that really matters to them significantly is if you make a whole bunch of money and you leave the country, you should still have to pay a tax there, right? Because you're taking that wealth and if you're claiming it somewhere else. Um, other than that, other I haven't seen any different international, maybe like regulatory agreements. Not that it really matters because as long as they're getting paid, that's all the governments are really going to worry about is getting their tax share. In my personal opinion, I think so. I don't know, but if you want to post it up top, if you can locate the information, I'd love to see it.
I'll try to find it. It's been a while, but yeah, because I've been following the IMF and the World Economic Forum and the BIS, all those organizations that are up top quite a bit, just for the simple fact that you know, the BIS is owned by all the central banks, and they work really closely with the IMF, because the IMF controls the SDR basket. They're the lender of last resorts for governments if they're going to go insolvent, and they are playing a significant role in the adoption of this technology as a whole and unifying the whole world, because this new financial system that we're going into is going to be a lot more global than it was before, just for the simple fact that the cross-border payment scenario, all the friction and everything gets dropped. That's why they're all the G7 and the G20 governments have all decided to come together with a global framework of regulations, so that they can all interoperable with each other with this technology. And then they were going to fine tune the laws within each country that are going to pertain to its citizens. But as far as dealing with other countries in finance, they were going to make sure that the unified framework was all the same with all the countries around the world, and that they were supposed to sign off on that. The G7 already signed off on it, so it's already written. And the United States is part of the G7, so like it's with the G20, but I haven't heard anything about it, and I stepped away from following them quite as much in the last couple months, because I've been trying to focus on some other things.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you could find some of the articles or anything like that and post it up top, I'd like to take a look at it. You know,
I'll see if I can do that, and I'll send them to you.
I just threw Ripple's policy framework up. I read it while I was on the plane. There's basically a combination of two bills. I forget what they're called right now. One of them engages the CFTC, but still keeps the SEC involved, sort of in the beginning. Yeah, you can check that out. It's only a 3-pager. It's not that long. And these are bills that have already been introduced, so it's not like just talk. Like they've actually already. They'll probably have to reintroduce them. I think in next Congress is. I think that's how that works, and I don't really know.
that's awesome.
Did they release these documents, Karma? Have they been just recently released?
What's that?
Since when was these documents available? Have they been for a while, or was it just added?
I think maybe a couple of months ago, something like that.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing. At least I'll check through it.
How's the conference and stuff like that, Karma?
Oh, it was excellent. Excellent. Everybody, so many smart people, and great presentations and good side conversations. Yeah, it was excellent.
Did you get any sleep? That's the big question.
Well, last night I did, thank God. But yeah. Anyway, that was honestly ridiculous. I don't want to waste the space time talking about it, but that was ridiculous. I mean, how can you rent me a hotel room and you can't even open the door?
True. So, into Ledger Protocol, have you got any tidbits for us, or?
Maybe tomorrow I'll go more into it. I'm in an Uber at the moment, and then I'm going to be driving till the end of the space after that. So I don't. I'm just not. We can talk about it tomorrow. But yeah, there's some really really interesting stuff, and you can see the whole video. Let me throw that up top. Hang on.
Yeah, you can put day 1 and day 2. Yeah, and by the way, for everybody in the audience, it's an open forum. Like, so if anybody has any questions that are change the subject, digital asset related, Internet of Value, tokenization, anything, please feel free to hit the request, come up. Everybody is it's an open mic for everybody who would like to speak. And I always like to say if there's a question you're wondering or something that you want to ask but not sure if you want to ask, you can type it in the bubble at the bottom right, or just always know that I bet you there's somebody else who's thinking the same thing. And even if they hear the space in the future, right, there's possibly a question that you asked that got answered, that answered a question that they had. So that's just, feel free to come up.
And we finally got a bubble back down in the bottom right hand corner too. That's really good.
We got a bubble today, yeah. I don't know. Twitter's messing with me. Sometimes, some days we do, sometimes we don't. But Chisel, you came up. You haven't gotten to speak yet. If there's anything you'd like to add in, or subject matter you'd like to speak on. You there, Chisel?
Yeah, I am. Hey, Death. How are you?
They're still showing up as listener for me.
Oh, wait. Can you not hear Chisel talking right now, Shellfish?
I
Can you
can't.
hear me?
I guess I'll go out and come back in.
Oh,
Yeah, let me go out and come back in.
Hear anything either? So
Oh, I heard you. Yeah. It might be you.
Oh,
Could you go?
can, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Can,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, I was just
Gotta love Twitter.
It's always Twitter. I mean, Elon jumps on, the thing breaks. We finally bring someone up and it breaks. Oh, I hope he fixes this stuff.
This is good. I feel like almost every phone or every Twitter is like its own, like because it has these API plugins. It's like every Twitter is its own little server almost. I feel like it's a lot of dedication, a lot of hardware dedication.
it would actually be interesting to see the system architecture they set up for this, because it's got to be pretty beefy.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think, like, I mean, they had, when Elon came on there the other day, there was 68,000 people in one room. I mean, however they're setting those things up to be able to take those numbers is pretty crazy.
Separately coded space. Like, I was in a Twitter space, the Elon's first Twitter space that they hosted the other day, and it hit 126,000 people, and I kept hitting the request to go up, and it was instantly denying me. And I realized right away the way that the space was programmed. All of, like, these companies were at the top of the screen. I didn't follow any of them, but yet all of them were up there where I could clearly see them right underneath, like Elon and them talking. And it was clear there that this was a paid advertisement space, and that was brilliant. But definitely separately coded.
Well, and that's another thing too, because when, like, I was in the space when he came up to be able to speak as well, and I saw obviously like the different connections that we all have. It seems to be able to group us against like near our friends or our cohorts or whatever. And yeah, like people were saying the exactly same thing as what you were in a different space. But all I could see was the main guys. I was directly obviously underneath them. Whale Watcher was in there and all those guys too. But yeah, they were also saying that like Bloomberg and all these guys were actually in there too for the business side of things. So it's interesting how it groups you together with obviously who you know, yet at the same time like gives you different people on your listing depending obviously what your preferences are.
Yeah, it's all about the input data. Twitter is going to be this marvelous, I think, application to be able to pull all of this information from. And this is to go into AI and the physics of how AI works, right? It's all input data. It's all information that can be quickly accessed to create an a different action or reaction that can create a different action or reaction, right? And so we have the machine learning aspect with AI and all of this input data, and it's just it's immense. the amount of processes that are being done to further the aggregation of our species and the ability for us to do things in an everyday setting.
Hey, Death Ranger, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I hear you. Is
Awesome.
anybody else hear Chisel as well? I guess I'm gonna take that as a yes. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the rumors going around that like Twitter may implement like some kind of like payment system, kind of like a PayPal, but also like crypto
Without a
related?
doubt, they already filed the paperwork. Twitter already filed the paperwork as a financial institution. They're trying to get the licenses and for fit regulatory requirements. And and this is also another aspect of this, right? So KYC, AI information, and then value, the ability to transfer value to each other. I don't particularly think, I know people are kind of like the whole dog thing, the Dogecoin. I mean, with because he always says go to the moon, or kind of does the little what I would call like Elon trolling. I think the all digital assets. I think there's going to be the ability, just like how you would PayPal for sure, right? Because Peter Thiel is one of the people who really helped Elon be who Elon is today, and society of the way that he structured his businesses. And so I definitely see that being a huge aspect into what Twitter will play, almost like a WhatsApp. I mean WeChat. Sorry, yeah, WeChat. There's this app in China that not a lot of people know, but it's like it's the everything app. It's social media. You send value. It's your credit card. It's your identity. It's your everything, right? Everything app. Businesses, right? You get hired through it, and so I definitely can see it's something very similar to that.
He's done a few interviews, Elon, new and old, with like expressing his vision of like having like a WeChat, PayPal, Twitter kind of hybrid system, or what have you. So I think yeah, that's definitely in the works and it's coming. And I really hope he implements like all cryptos, like you said. That'd be great.
There's
It'll
no
be interesting to be able to see how he sets it up, though. I really hope if he, obviously this is exactly the direction that he's going. I mean, he'd be silly not to be able to do it. It's a it's literally over $1 trillion business by itself. It's crazy. So the only thing I'm concerned about is will he take away the name Twitter, which obviously that's established itself really, really well, and then attach the abilities of what I'm pretty sure he's going to call the X app. He's referenced that a lot. I hope he doesn't sort of just take the name away from Twitter and call everything like the X app, sort of like what WeChat does. So.
Well, I'll personally say this: if he's going to change the name, X is the only thing I want it to be. So I'm kind of divided because
You're not being biased at all, huh?
it just so happens to be that X represents everything, and I don't mean that in like a value perspective of like trying to be like um, Riddlerish, right? X equals everything in the equations of mathematics, right? X is always right trying to figure out what X is, and so X is everything. Interestingly enough, sorry.
That would be if Twitter is going to be a for payments. I guess there will be a lot of sellers selling things,
Yeah,
auctions and things like that.
yeah, right. Destroy Facebook markets, right? The ability to have people selling things from their homes, auctions, things like that. Yeah, I could totally see it engulfing all of the different aspects that of all the different other apps too. I've never used TikTok personally myself, so I don't really know about TikTok, but most other social media apps, I could see it. There being no for them to exist. Facebook more so, or Meta. Sorry, Meta. That's probably why they changed their name, right? Because they'll probably divide themselves and not be a social media thing anymore, right? They're a metaverse, right? The Meta, right? And in order to use the Oculus, you have to have a Facebook account. So, or I mean, Meta account. That's really bad. So
How do you guys use Facebook? Now that you guys have Twitter, once I found Twitter about in 2019, I just stopped using Facebook almost totally. I use only the Messenger app, but so I don't scroll the wall there.
yeah, no Facebook for me at least.
The only reason I have it is to keep in contact with the kids' school stuff.
No, and this is my reasoning for most of the social media of why I don't participate in any of it. If you're going to take my data, right, and you're going to track my location, you're going to track how fast I walk, you're going to track how much I weigh, where I hold my phone, right? If you're going to sell all of this information, I want to be paid for it. I'm not against the sale of the information being provided because it does further the species, the entire species, right? Because it furthers us technological wise with AI and machine learning. But at least pay me for it, right? I should be receiving some sort of increase in value, in my opinion, based off of the amount of data that you think that is well deserved from taking from me.
Well, what if it goes into the universal basic healthcare system, and instead of having to pay for healthcare, the data is going to be cutting the price down and helping across the board?
I think that's one aspect of UBI. Yeah, I think that's an interesting proposition because if you have robotics and machine learning doing the surgical operations, and you have doctors that are really AI and that are able to read blood samples and tell all of the different things that a normal doctor would today, right? But much quicker. There's the question of, yeah, why are you in the sense going to have to pay for these services because there's not a human doing it anymore, but there has to be a profit, there has to be a value exchange still occurring. And so in the form of UBI, you being paid for the data, it still creates the flow of value because you're still going to be a consumer somewhere. And yeah, allowing for us to progress further as a species. I love it. I love it personally. I think it's huge. The medical field, I think, is going to be the first, next to shipping, to change over to robotics.
Oh, I can see that transition. I mean, they were already doing the telecast or whatever, the teledoctors during COVID, and everybody loved it. Like not having to go in, have people cough all over you was great.
Yeah, and the largest expense in all of the medical field is actually funny. It's funny, but it's not. It's the old people homes or retirement centers. You know, where the elderly go to be taken care of are the largest expenses, and those probably, in my opinion, would probably be targeted first because it's labor which you're mostly paying for because you're paying for the care of nurses and doctors to take care of people. um, and so, throw an AI device on the ceiling on a movable track, right? And you could say you maybe get three of the devices, and you have a track that leads into everybody's room where these large arms, robotic arms, that would be able to lift somebody up and put them on a wheelchair and push them around the facility. And you replace all of the labor that exists. I mean, it's really trillions of dollars in the long term that they would.
One up you. What about just having an exoskeleton or exosuit that they don't even need a robot to lift them up? Like they just put on their clothes and it helps them walk on their own.
Or maybe like an exoskeleton with like a trap door in the back so they can poop.
I would say in the sense, if you are still able to do something for society, like if you're going to use that exosuit and go further society and the species in a scientific and um, yeah, technological way, right? Because pretty much everything we do is technologically advancing ourselves, whether we realize it or not. Every if we figure out how to do something better, is literally technologically advancing ourselves. So yeah, I think in that sense, yeah. If not, I don't know if it would be really make sense to give that person like an exosuit, right? Because there would probably be other devices that could work just as well with taking care of them, so that they could relax and not have to worry about going out and do.
I mean, they did have that technology where they were just going to either like like the older generation would just kind of pass on, and the younger generation would kind of live forever. I mean, that was the tech where the cells were just regenerating themselves and kind of live forever in that manner. I know. I think I told you before. I found that one that like Brian Armstrong and a few other Silicon Valley tech people are investing into that type of technology right now.
Yeah, and I definitely am under the personal belief that 30 to 40 years from now, I think immortality in the sense of at least being able to have your consciousness exist will be maybe probable, impossible. Um, in the sense of like that, like having your cells regenerate themselves almost like they're nanobites that can basically, control the elements and the literally atomic structure of the cell itself. Yeah, all right. But I definitely think we're probably, I don't know, maybe 100 years away from that, 150 years away from that, possibly. And I think it's part of the age of energy, right? And there's a possibility that the idea of like a Cambrian explosion of technology, the faster and more advanced technology gets, the faster it advances, and the faster it advances to the next stage. So it's really hard to calculate, where it truly will be, but yeah, I mean that's the literal. If we're able to do that, you're able to control the actual cellular formation of what you are and who you are, and yeah, that's that point of I would call probably a level 3 species, because at that point the amount of energy it would probably take to be able to do such a thing would take the energy of us being able to control the energy of our at least galaxy, yeah, or close to our beyond our solar system. And Cheesecake, did you have your hand up? I think you did.
I did, but then I withdrew it. So you think we're 150 or 100 years away from that? I think we might be a little closer, but I could be wrong. I didn't hear the beginning of that conversation. I heard you mention consciousness, and my ears picked up because I was reading this thread. David Schwartz and Charles Hotchkins are going at it, and David Schwartz is really just like he's definitely winning. He's definitely more intelligent on this one. But anyways, y'all should after this space should go read that thread. It's interesting. Um,
I think the thread that you're talking about. But keep going. Sorry, I'm sorry.
well, no, you're good. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I'm very intrigued about the whole conversation with consciousness and the technology that we're moving through. I think if when after we get this financial system in place and regulated, they're going to switch gears and really start focusing a lot more on integrating AI and quantum together. And I think once that happens, like the rate acceleration of our um, evolution with technology is really, really going to take off. So that's the reason I think they're closer than um, to having that. I think that's going to happen fairly quickly. And I think that after that happens, the how fast we're going to evolve after that point is unfathomable to us at this point. So I wonder if that time frame of 100, 150 years might actually be maybe even cut in half.
So
Like
I'll
maybe
comment.
maybe 50 to 75 years at the tops. Like we'll be because we're gonna be like if you look at the Borg on Star Trek, like that's where we're heading. So is that what do you think?
I'll give you my hypothesis in it in 1 minute. XR Mind came up and he has his hand up, so I wanna let him go, and then I will give you my hypothesis on it. But I'm not gonna lose it because I vibe with what you were saying very well. So XR Mind though, go ahead, man.
Hi, evening, guys. How are we all doing?
Good.
So yeah, just following
Good.
on what you're saying there, do you actually genuinely think we're going to get up to that level of civilization when we're introducing metaverses? My take on the actual idea is that eventually we will all become digitalized in some sort of way or fashion, and effectively become immortal in that sense. Um, Just sorry, guys. Thanks for letting me join. I'm a startup on the XRPL. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still building, so I don't want to plug the project, anything like that. Just following on your discussion of where you see civilization going and what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, welcome in, welcome in. Yeah, so 100% a huge aspect of it. So the digitization or the tokenization, right, is part of the digitization um, of society and everything. I think plays a huge role inside of this, especially with the Internet of Bodies and the ability to have a synaptics connections, or maybe almost in like how we think of how the brain works today, being converted over into a computational system which we store. This is when I said earlier, I don't know if you were in the space, I said like I think we're like 30 to 40 years where I would call humanity immortal, but not immortal in the sense of where we're controlling our cellular information, but to the sense of where maybe we can store a conscious synaptics connections bridge. And so it's you, it's not you, but it is the framework of how you're, you know, you were, right? And so it is you. Um, I personally, and then back to XRP Cheesecake, when you said, yeah, I agree, man. It's possible that the timeline gets cut in half. And so that's basically saying 60 years from now, you'll be able to control the literal cellular information that's passing through your body. And so you could look any way you want. You could be anything you want. I mean, at that sense, this is where I go to where I kind of believe in like quantum mystery, which the hypothesis behind or the theory behind quantum mystery is that we are all one particle. Everything that exists is just one particle that is just existing somewhere else at a different point in time, spinning at a different frequency. And so it's all one. We are all one, and we are all nothing at the exact same time in this thought and theory. But it gives good precedent to being able to how to understand our cellular information, because if we break it down and it's all these very tiny quantum particles that make up all of the actual information of atomic structures. Well, if we learn how to control the small quantum particles, then we can make up the atomic structures, and from there, yeah, I mean, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's really deep, man. Really appreciate the feedback there. It's just something I was discussing with a family member the other day, obviously, with the metaverse just literally on the corner. Um, we talked about flying cars 40, maybe even 50 years ago. And do you actually see that coming to fruition when, in theory, we're all pushing a metaverse environment and the ecological impacts that we have on society? Would it be better if we were all sat with a Oculus or whatever it may be on and not out there polluting the environment? It was just a random discussion I had. I thought I'd throw it in there.
Well, so I think personally, in long term, VR or this ability to take your conscious out of almost your environment that you're in right now, right? So bring you into almost a sleep state or a coma state, will help with sending our species off planet. And so when it comes to going to like Mars and the moon and Europa and all of these different solar objects, I think being able to kind of put yourself into a hibernatic state where you can still be alive and awake in the sense that your brain is functioning and you can almost maybe live in this metaverse, right? Which could feel like I don't know, maybe it feels like a week in the metaverse, but it's like 6 months of space travel. So yeah, I think that personally is going to be um, what plays that biggest role. You also said something else that I wanted to comment and I lost it. Um, if you could,
Yeah, it was just the time frames on everything. So, like I said, we were looking at flying cars 40, maybe 50 years ago.
that's right.
We're getting really close to actually having metaverses that we can all access. So, it's the time frame maybe a bit sooner than all that.
Well, my personal belief is I think that in 10 to 15 years, decade to 5 years past, we won't even have legally wise, they won't allow people to drive, right? Because everything will be AI automated. If you need to get across, where are you from, if I can ask?
I'm just based in the UK. Don't tell me that because I'm looking at getting a classic at some point. So
No.
that's not good news.
Say you wanted to go from the north of UK to the southern hemisphere of the UK, right? Okay, so you don't want a taxi for this. You want a flying taxi. So you call your flying taxi. It arrives at your home in 3 to 5 minutes, right? And it takes you across your trip that could take you 7 to 8 hours driving wise, but it only takes you 45 minutes or an hour and a half because it's a flight. And so I think that's more so the possibility in the future where short term, right? Because it's 10 to 15 years doesn't. I mean, it is short term. It is long, but yeah, I don't think it's going to even people who are going to be legally driving. I think it'll all be automated on systemic networks that are connected to each other, and so everything will be much more efficient. But Shellfish, and you got your hand up, so you go ahead.
Yeah, I just put on top. So I told you guys a few times they were already starting to plan back in 2019, and they've got condos down there ready to go for when the flying quote unquote cars are in effect. The condo's ready to go, so you can check on the link.
Nice one. That was everything, guys. Thanks for hosting the space. I'm going to catch out. I'll just drop out for a bit.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And listen, you don't have to go if you have other questions or other ideals that you want to speak about or things that you think about be in the future. Feel free to speak them. I love these type of spaces where because this is it's called the Internet of Value because this is part of the Internet of Value. What distributed ledger technology brings in Web3, the ability to interact and send value, transfer value instantaneously at the speed of light for the fraction of nominal zero of cost. It truly is what's going to lead to our species to be able to technologically advance in these ways. Because if my taxi can't be paid instantaneously and the operator of the taxi receive that money where they can then pay out somewhere else instantaneously, all in a flow of even seconds. It doesn't work, in my opinion. And so we need to have this velocity of money spinning to be able to increase the ability for our species to technologically advance.
Sorry, I will just jump back in on that. I love my tech. I've been dabbling with it for as long as I can remember, pulling out absolutely everything apart. You name it, I've done it. I think obviously one of the biggest holdups of that is the rate that we can manufacture this technology as well. Yeah, it could be quite some time off. I forgot about that small dilemma that we all face with that.
The to me the most interesting factor I think is usually the speed of technology is controlled by regulation, and so it's the inherent fear of doing something that could pose an illegal risk, and insurance, which is the largest thing. You can't get insured if you're not falling into some sort of regulatory standard. Even you can think about it like a device. If you take to the back of your like phone device, right, there's some sort of codes on the back that are basically standards for the battery and the structure of the phone and the material and yada yada, right? So I feel like that, my own personal opinion, what stifles technology typically. And in this case, we have a perfect example, right, with distributed ledger technology and the SEC, the way that they've kind of battered the way that people are developing in the space, and now and probably a little bit more scared, and so maybe things won't be created that maybe would have if it wasn't that way. So yeah, I don't know. But I do think that if we can get that under control and make it very clear that all of the governments of the world, right, just want humanity to progress as a species, I think that's, in my opinion, maybe a utopia for me, a dystopia for maybe other people, but where I see our species going.
Yeah, I don't hope we have to throw away all our privacy in the technology shift here. But it's funny when we're talking about flying cars. Also, I saw you also Shellfish was posting a article with a house that could house a flying taxi. Because 40 years ago, at least when I was a little kid, I didn't expect the first flying cars to be in drone forms. Now, when we have drones, it's like so close before we have it. So it will be nice to see how that will play out.
Yeah, and this is something where we go to like the flying cars. I'm like, they've had them for a really long time. We just call them drones right now. But the United States government has had flying cars for a really long time already. I mean, those things carry payloads, so they can definitely carry a person from one place to the next very easily. just change the tech a little bit. But here's the problem then, right? Military contracts, right? You fall under strict guidelines. It slowly comes out to the retail.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot about that very small part, that everything is obviously militarized, weaponized. And it's another 10, 20 years down the line before, unfortunately, the general public sees it. And you rightly say that stifles the technological and the advancements for ourselves.
It does, it also creates a more controlled, steady flow of the way technology advances. So there is a plus side to it, right? It dampens technology, but it also, right, nobody's able to make like a nuclear bomb in their garage. So like that's a plus side because that could be dangerous to, well, everyone in the entire Earth. So I hate to say that there is a plus side to it, but yeah, I guess it's just the way that we've come to agree on the terms of where we were maybe 50, 60 years ago of the way technology could advance. But that's something that I think needs to change in our day and age, and I think will slowly, maybe not right away, but generational wise, I think it will for sure.
I think the people like ourselves with like the obsessive researching and bringing it to the forefront is helping it move along faster than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, just devices itself, right? Like my phone, comparably to even 5 years ago, processes data so much faster, and so I can look up all the things on the internet and I want, and I can process all of this information actually quicker than I could 5 years from now. And to like think of maybe another 5 years from now, they figure out how to like beam the information somewhat into my right directly into my eyes using a laser without me even being able to realize there's a laser beaming into my eyes off the screen. So like,
Starlink allows your brain to be Bluetooth capable.
yeah, Starlink compatible with Neuralink, you mean, right?
You mean like the LiDAR?
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right. I meant Neuralink.
Yep. And there's also a really cool other one out called BCI, which is Brain Control Interface. That one specifically has been tested. It was actually even they had a seminar over by where I'm at in the West Point Military Academy.
Bluetooth in your brain. Would you guys implement that? That would be. I hate
Yeah,
Bluetooth.
100%. I'm a multitasker. So sorry. Go ahead, X.
I'm not a multitasker, but yes, I'm already considering it. I don't want to be the first, but but yes, I am. I just the benefits of that could be fantastic, really.
And not only that, the benefits of it, but the help that you might be able to help other people. So imagine in this scenario, um, the Neuralink is able to store your synaptic connections, and so the things that are firing off, it's able to store this information, process it, and then say, all right, this means that, this means that, this means that, right? From the bridges that have been fired off in your brain. Could have to do with walking, vision, moving your arm a certain way. And so then you have somebody who breaks their arm and they can no longer move their arm the same way they used to because the bridge, the synaptics connection in their brain is no longer, almost you can think of it as, if you guys know what mycelia is, it's the vein structure of a mold or any organic being of trees. You can think of it like the way that the veins um, expand themselves, and so you have these connections in your brain, and so it becomes much weaker and thinner because it doesn't have the usage anymore. But you could take this storage information and then they could use maybe a brain control interface to have it actually imprinted right back onto them, so there's no 6 months of wait time for them to now reuse their arm. I go in, boom, all of a sudden my synaptics connection is back in my brain. As long as my arm is fully healed, I'm going to be able to use it just like I normally would, just like as I was before. Maybe.
Not to mention the fact that like that Neuralink, if you have any medical issues that are starting to form in your body, like well beyond the ability that we have to detect those things now, that would detect it and send a message either to you or your physician, or anything like that. So I mean, there's so many different benefits that I I don't know. We just.
Yep. And and it's not far off from what we have today, right? This phone that we hold in our hand can read our blood pressure and sense our synaptics, and look at you to see if something is wrong. So we're only just advancing that piece of technology, and that's why I like kind of when people get a little bit in fear of it, I'm like, you already have it. We're just kind of like making it a little bit better.
Right. Have you seen the video on the contact lenses that have digital? There's actually microchips on it, and it'll give you a digital readout of well, like other people's body language and like their eye pupil dilation. So if they're lying to you, you'll be able to pick up on it.
Exactly. And so this is where you bring up this interesting part where I think AR and VR is going to go. So other than being able to go into like a VR metaverse, I think walking around on the normal day streets beyond like how they had the Google glasses, I think it's, excuse me, sorry, it's going to be like the Google eye lens, right? And so throw this eye lens on, and you could have maybe your friend walking next to you. That's you're in America, they're in China, they're walking next to you though on the street. They're working out at they're working out at their home right now, but they're walking next to you on the street as you walk to go get something, and you see all these different maybe bulletin boards or advertisements around the city that if you took off the lens you wouldn't see. And so I think there's a lot of different potentials that you could see with it for sure. Add that VR and AR aspect into it.
Yeah, the problem with all these AR things and things like that, and I don't think people will, be people will be too addicted to the AR world and forget about the real world eventually. So the the thing with the TVs, also the newest TVs these days, the quality on nature programs and things like that, it's too good. It looks like better than in the real world almost.
Yeah, and this plays into what I would say survival of the fittest, and this is like aspect of society where we come to kind of bring into that faction of robotics and UBI, and you have to want to be a member to progress the future of the species and society. I think it's really going to come down to a choice where everyone will be given the choice to live a nice comfy life if that's what you want, and you want to be in the virtual world, and you want to live in the metaverse, and you don't really want to do anything with society. I think that will be an option. I personally am not taking it up myself. I think many will, but I think there's also that option where you can then do something to progress the species. And I think those people, those individuals, right, whoever they may be, portion of our species, are the ones that really get to make the change. That they're going to make the decisions in the way that the world works because they're the ones progressing the way that the world works. So there's a plus side to it and a downside to it. But yeah, I definitely see that as an unfortunate inevitability. It comes down to something I think that's inherently part of nature. It's a little bit of greed or lust. And so we all kind of lust or greed for something better. And sometimes if you're given something better and don't have to do anything for it, it's just inherently much easier to abuse. And that's just part of being alive.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how everything plays out now. I have been waiting for so long to see what will happen
But
when the masses will have to wake up to all this mess. Will be interesting to see. I can't wait.
yeah, plus side to it actually, it kind of gives a user base, right? Like if the majority of people are like in the metaverse all the time, right? Say people who are going out to in the sense of like space travel, if they were in a ship and they were in the metaverse or they're locked in for 6 months, maybe they could enjoy their metaverse with their family still, right? Because if their family's in the metaverse, well, then they're still spending time with them. And so I see that as an interesting aspect that might actually oh, that's kind of interesting when I think about it like that.
This is why I was talking earlier about maybe a potential of linking up your consciousness in the metaverse and in some sort of way. Like you could upload yourself and your family members. I mean, I think it's already been done, hasn't it? A grandfather uploaded a digital copy of himself to the metaverse so that the family could meet him whenever.
It's very possible. I think I've heard something like that before. And guys, I hate to cut the conversation down. I have maybe like another 7 minutes, and I have to close out the space. I have a Flare community chat that I do at 5 o'clock on Mondays and Thursdays. This has been an excellent conversation. I'm really one of my favorite ones that we've had in a while. Jet, you just came up, man, and I'd love for you to add into the conversation.
I was just gonna say I like most of the ideas.
Thank you for coming up, man.
So we have a Flare community call in 10 minutes, you said, Death?
Yeah, every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. for me. From usually we do 5 to 7. John, who's Flare community, hosts a YouTube video and then a call in the space at the Discord, I should say. Sorry.
Sweet, thanks. Yeah, I'll check in.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, man. I'll speak to you all soon. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming, man. It was a great conversation. I like the information you added in. It was on topic, and it really matters, right? Now, whether it's today or in the future that people hear this information, I find all of the information that was spoken about extremely important, significant. Even if people come back 10 years from now and hear the conversations that were going on today, which I truly think is a possibility. I mean, I record these all on YouTube, right? So hopefully they're stored in some data center that could be looked up for maybe hundreds of years. And, you know, it's not every day where you get to sit around and speak with the true innovators, right? Because everybody here, if you're in this space right now, and you're on Twitter in general, pretty much, and in the crypto Twitter, you're part of the innovator stage. You're part of that small portion of population that's actually willing to take a risk to learn. And I really do mean that, and I mean learn new information that rivals the information that you know today. And so it's always a pleasure, and I thank everybody who came to the space, listeners, and especially everybody who came up to speak. It wouldn't be a space without you guys. So, and of course, nothing that was said today is financial advice. Panelists' views do not necessarily represent those of ledgerscale. We host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host our focus topic space from 5 to 6. And I hope to see everybody here tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Death, for holding this every day.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for letting me come up and talk. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Cheers, Death. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
see you guys.